This demonstrates the problem that I was having with the HD screen. You couldn't see greys and had to lean the screen right back. I checked the components on Lenovo's site, paying particular attention to the EDB cable which connects the screen to the motherboard. There are only two of these, and the HD and FHD are the same. Next, before working on the laptop, I disabled the power. The T460 has two batteries, an internal and an external one. The internal one is disabled by going into the BIOS and disabling it in the power setting. Next thing to do is to remove the internal bezel, which is adhesive. Unfortunately my camera packed up. You have to very carefully peel this away from the screen, and my screen delaminated during this process. Next, prise the internal bezel away. The internal bezel has screws that go through it and secure the screen. You need to take these screws out before you can take the bezel off. I've speeded this process up. I think a great deal of patience is needed here in order not to damage anything. Incidentally, when you put the adhesive bezel to one side, it's important to put it sticky side up so that you don't get anything stuck to the bottom. Next, bring the screen forward and lay it over the keyboard on the laptop. Unusually, the T460 doesn't have tape to hold the screen plug-in. Instead, it has a plug with a clip. Carefully flip the clip back and very gingerly push the cable out. These connectors, I think, are quite delicate. Put the old screen to one side. Check the new screen to make sure that it actually fits into the chassis before fitting it. It's important to carefully push the plug in. These things aren't meant to be used multiple times and they're very delicate. It's important to try and get it in squarely when you actually push it in so that it's an even force across it. And then flip the clip over to hold it in securely. Next, put the screen back into the frame. Plug in the power cord. This re-enables the internal battery, and you can test the screen to make sure it works prior to assembling the laptop. Next, put back the first bezel, so making sure that you clip it in at the bottom first. There are some little clips you need to press in. Be careful not to trap any cables or anything that may have become dislodged in the process of removing it. Next, check for debris, both on the bezel itself and on the adhesive on the bezel that you're going to stick back on again. What you don't want to do is end up with bits of muck trapped underneath the bezel, which will create bumps. Then remove the protective film from the screen. use the rubber feet at the top of the screen to actually locate the self-adhesive bezel. That means that the screen, once it's on those, will actually be lined up for the rest of the area that it goes back onto. Pay particular attention at the bottom not to apply too much screen pressure onto the bezel, as it presses onto the PCB at the bottom of the screen. Next, replace the battery. As you can see, the problem solved. Greys are now showing up really well. And the FHD also has the advantage of providing much more colour, especially if you go for the glossy option that I did.